Welcome, you guys. I really appreciate all of y'all being here today, and I want to thank you for being here to finally learn a better alternative to health insurance. Believe it or not, there are alternatives to health insurance out there. Your curiosity to find a better way, your willingness to learn, and your frustrations of premium increases just being completely out of your control are all reasons that you are joining us here today. In the next 30 minutes, you are going to learn the solution to these rising healthcare premium costs. My name is Will DeShazo. I'm introducing you guys today to your hosts and your primary educators, Russ Morgan and Joey Murray. They are industry leaders who are absolutely committed to finding, studying, and becoming experts in better alternatives to traditional thinking. If they're not teaching at cash flow mastermind groups, Joey and Russ can be found challenging their clients' thinking in all things cash flow, and in return are considered as trusted cash flow strategists, brilliant, innovative minds, and really just the idea guys. They both practice what they preach, and you'll see what I mean today, and everybody in our office is health sharing members through Samaritan Ministries or another health sharing organization. Now, I want you to listen to this absolutely crazy stat. If everyone on this webinar today implemented these same ideas, the ideas of health sharing that we're teaching, there would be a combined savings of close to $960,000. $960,000 in annual health insurance costs. That's incredible. Joey and Russ, welcome. Let me first ask you guys, how in the world did we get to this point that we're at today?
I mean, this is a crazy, crazy time, isn't it? We have been dealing with our clients coming to us feeling trapped, right? If you are feeling trapped right now, this is the right place to be. We're going to cover why people are having to have insurance, but then not wanting to pay these premiums and then not wanting to pay these crazy penalties or these personal responsibility costs that they're throwing out there. If you are one of those that is actually paying your own health insurance, this is the place to be. If you're not relying on your employer to provide that, we're going to share some really great insights today. What our firm is about, as Will talked about, is we're trying to help people to create financial freedom. So that formula is really simple. It's passive income must be greater than your monthly expenses at some point, and that's what gives you the option or the choice to say, I no longer want to go to this job tomorrow. Until that point, it's really impossible. So why are we concerned about health insurance? Because one of the largest and continually growing monthly expenses that we're dealing with is health insurance. I mean, Russ, how many times a week are we hearing that this is a problem for our clients?
My phone's blowing up. I know you're listening to this because you're sick and tired of what's happening with not only our government, but how it's affected us in healthcare. I mean, the fact that we are sitting here today on a call just to talk about the fact that our healthcare premiums are going up 50, 60, 70%, and we're going to kind of get into some of those stats in a second.
Yeah, hey guys, I just actually had a question come in or a comment talking about health insurance being up over 80%, and that's a family premium. So just wanted to let you guys know that. That's definitely
Unreal.
Yeah, I mean, the phone calls we've had are really, it's absurd. And I think a lot of us don't even understand what's going on.
Exactly. I mean, just yesterday someone told me, Joey, it feels like I need to have like a degree in insurance just to be able to read this stuff.
Well, I've tried to read it. I've sat down with my brother-in-law, who's an orthopedic surgeon, and I've tried to get him to show me what some of this stuff means. And it really is. It's gotten to be part of the problem. But really, our real hurdle that we're facing right now that I see, Joey, it comes back to the fact that, yes, our premiums are up. As you just said, Will, 80%. Here in Birmingham, we're seeing 71%. Nashville, 49%. Phoenix, Arizona, Joey, 145% increase.
That's unbelievable.
Can you imagine you were paying $700 a month for your family, and now it's $1,700 a month? How in the world are you supposed to get ahead, be financially free, as you just said a second ago, if at the same time our expenses are skyrocketing. You're spending $20,000 a year just for the right to pay health insurance. That doesn't even include the cost of what it would actually, what the co-pays, the deductibles.
Yeah, don't forget deductibles. I mean, you're really paying for the right to pay for your own health insurance or health care. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, ultimately, we need to educate ourselves. I mean, if we boil it down, we have to find a better way. We have to be willing to think outside of the box, though. And that's what we're going to share with you today. Let me ask everybody a quick question. Do you think, based on what we've talked about so far and what you've experienced, can you continue to play the game and expect to ever win? I don't think so. I think the resounding answer is absolutely not. But today, I think, just as we were talking about before, how did we get here, Russ?
Yeah, well, we got here because all of a sudden our government mandated that everybody has to have insurance. Now, you know, I'm a free market person. I love the ability for us to be able to buy, pay for, do whatever we want to. But the fact that we're mandated, that we have to buy. And you know what? You and I were sitting here laughing about this yesterday as we were looking through some fine print. If we don't, would you guys like to understand what the penalty or what they call it is? What is it called, Joey?
The shared responsibility payment.
If you don't have the minimal essential coverage, as they call it, then now there's going to be this shared responsibility payment.
Just call it a fee, Russ. Come on.
Yeah, well, it's a joke. But really, we're sitting here because we've got people who are unhealthy having to be in the same pool with healthy people. And again, I want you to be able to buy insurance, but if my family is healthy, we know that medical insurance is nothing more than prepaid medical expenses. So all the insurance companies are doing is saying, this is how much I think your family is going to spend on a given year, and that's what we're going to collect from you on a monthly basis. That's the way it works. There's a profit margin built in there. I'm good with them with that. There's some administrative expenses. But when you put in the expenses of someone who's going to spend 2, 3, 10 times more than my family will, then now what's happening, you're seeing it. You're seeing the bottom line affecting our families.
Exactly. So I think to kind of cut through some of the clutter, really, you just mentioned it, Russ, it's the pool. The pool is the problem. We've now had too big of a pool. And so if we can just identify down to what's the solution, we need to minimize the pool. We need to get a smaller pool. And today we have a couple of different ways we're going to offer some solutions. So I know most of you are here to hear about the health sharing phenomenon that's out there. It seems like it's just recently come on the screen, but it's been here for a while, right? But there's other options outside. I want to kind of quickly hit. U.S. Health Advisors, for instance, and other companies like them, they have kind of determined, hey, there's actually a profit to be made here for people that are just fed up. They don't want to be in the pool. So they've created smaller pool kind of policies, just insurance policies, and they limit who can get in with health screening that is either a pass or fail. Like if you don't pass these certain things, you can't get this coverage.
So they don't have to accept everybody, even with pre-existing conditions and so forth?
Exactly. No, they are. Now here's the caveat. They also don't comply with the ACA requirements.
So I need to have an asterisk down here.
Absolutely. And so by no means are we advocating you should use these folks. We're just trying to educate you today on what's out there and how things are being done.
What are some of the things they cover, though? Well, because obviously this is an option. If you're trying to get into a smaller pool, we got to find an option.
That's right.
What is it that they cover?
So first of all, let me just say this. Aetna has a plan like this. United Healthcare has, I think it's called the Golden Rule Insurance Company. So there's all these guys are starting to get on board with this. Now they have some are low to no deductibles. Many of them offer dental and vision coverage. But again, they have a very limited pool because they have said, hey, you either qualify or you don't. All right. So again, this is something you want to research on your own, but we want to make you aware that there are options out there and they may be a benefit to you. But we were talking primarily today about health sharing. So Russ, you have a lot more experience in this realm. but our office pretty much lives by this.
Well, health sharing for me is really important, and you're going to get to hear in a little bit from somebody that I've known for many, many years, and their family has been using one of the health sharing companies for 6, 7, 8 years now, and has had just an awesome experience. And for me, watching them from afar, and me seeing, my family with our third child, we have 4 kids. Our third child, we actually had to pay cash for her birth. And it was because we were in that pre-existing condition, that 12-month time frames you get whenever you're joining a health insurance company. So for me, I started looking at this, and I actually negotiated with the doctor's offices that we were dealing with in order to get the fee. The first fee that we were told was going to be over $15,000. We got it down to $9,500.
Wow.
But that made sense to me. It's like, well, why am I not doing this for everything I'm doing? Why don't I have a way to share these needs, but also get the needs and the cost down?
All right, so back up 1 second. So a lot of people are listening, have never known anything about health sharing. So let's start kind of on the big scale. First of all, what is it? How long has it been around? Let's start there.
So the basics of health sharing is simply individuals with like minds or ethical standards or biblical standards are joining together to share the needs medically. So this is not insurance in any shape or form, because we'll get questions. I know we're going to have a Q&A coming up next week, because we know that there's probably going to be more questions we can answer in this 30-minute call. And some of those are going to be, well, what's the deductibles? How do you file a claim? Those are all insurance words. That doesn't exist. These are shared. So my family, with health sharing, agrees to pay within my budget for the basic preventative normal expenses I'm going to have. But being a part of this membership, I'm a member of Samaritan. Samaritan Ministries, you can go and look them up online, has over 62,000, almost 63,000 member households right now. These are all people who agreed to live a certain lifestyle, which based upon that alone means that we're going to minimize potentially risky activities that would put us in a situation to have higher healthcare needs. And we basically say that we're going to pay for our own coverage, and we're going to pay our own doctor bills. And I'm going to get to see the doctors that I want to. But based upon that, while I'm doing that, I also get to share and help those who can't, who go over the expenses. So basically, these are expenses that are going to help us avoid some of those higher expenses that may come down the road. Now, for a health sharing company to be exempt, because I know that's going to be the question that we're going to get, is, are they exempt from the ACA? And here's the rule. Healthcare.gov tells us that the ministry had to be in existence in 1999. Otherwise, they wouldn't qualify. Well, there's 4 or 5. I'm just going to list some of the top ones. Samaritan, that's the one that my family used. Christian Healthcare Ministries, I know that's the one Will, you and Jonathan use. There's other ones out there. MediShare is a popular one. And then one of the other ones out there that we have clients that are using is called Liberty Health Share. Will, I think you've put together a great downloadable form, right?
Yeah, and if our users and our folks here on the webinar want to download that form, you can just check out to the right. It should be under your questions form. There's going to be a spot that says handouts, and I'll go ahead and upload that file right now for you guys.
Well, that form is going to help you take and compare some of these options versus other companies. And I know that there's going to be a lot of apprehension at first because it's completely different. And as Joey said, one of the things we have to do, we have to open our mind, we have to educate ourselves, but we know we can't win continuing to play this game. So
that's right.
Health sharing on the gist is really just sharing the needs across member households.
Now, what are some of the things, some of the aspects of it that people need to know?
Well, one, you know that whenever you go into it, each one of the companies is going to have specifics.
Right.
So for the company that I use, they basically say I'm going to pay the first $300 of every existing event I have.
Right.
After that, then that would be something I would send to the company, and they would share that through a newsletter. So we get a monthly newsletter that tells us those expenses that for my family, what I'm going to share. So my family of 6, I'm open to tell you guys I spend $495 a month for my family of 6. And we go to the doctor a handful of times a year. Now, obviously, you get the kids with different sniffles and things like that, and you have to go check the ear aches or whatever, and I pay $100, usually $100 office visit every time I go.
That's right. So, I mean, one thing you can just take from this is your monthly contribution or share cost or whatever you want to call it. I mean, in insurance lingo, it's premium. In the sharing world, it's going to be called a share or a contribution. They are considerably lower, right? So that's one aspect of these. What else?
Well, here's a big thing for me, is that the fact that my family doesn't have pre-existing conditions and eliminates us from being able to be in the club. Means that, yes, if we have a family issue that already existed prior to us being a part of this membership, it's not a shareable need, but they have other things. They have a way for you to share those needs with people. And in this newsletter, Joey, I get a list every time of the families who have a need that came up that for a pre-existing condition, and they publish it and say, you know, if you so feel moved to help this family with this need, please send a check to them. If I want to send it to Samaritan, I can. And if I send it to Samaritan, I actually can be a deductible event.
Like a charitable giving.
Absolutely.
That's
And
awesome.
I know we have done that. We've seen, you know, my wife's a dentist, and we've had people who've had dental expenses that's come up, and that's one of the things that's not shared within Samaritan. And we've sent money to those families as a non-publishable event. Now, how many times, if you had something that wasn't covered by your health insurance, did Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, or Humana, or whoever it was, how many times did they send out a letter to their other policy holders and ask them to send you a check?
Yeah, that ain't going to happen.
No, it's never going to happen.
All right, so now another thing I know I've enjoyed this is that there's really no limit on what doctors you choose. Not all sharing groups do this. Some of them are on a PPO or a limited kind of a doctor pool, but most of them allow you to choose your own doctor, right? That's another thing people need to know.
Well, for me, that is a huge one, because I don't want my care dictated by the insurance company or a government. And my practice focuses on people in the healthcare industry, and I see it firsthand what the insurance companies are mandating, either directly or indirectly by reimbursements. And you're seeing that there's more and more nurse practitioners, there's more physician's assistants that are seeing patients, and it's because the doctor's office can't make enough money seeing the amount of patients they have to, so the care is going to get less. And I don't have to have that. I can spend time with my doctor because they know they're getting cash and they don't have to wait.
All right, now we're kind of running short on time. I'm going to go ahead and just quickly, they also provide excellent support. When you're calling into these sharing groups, they typically just have somebody you're talking to on the phone right then. They're really excellent to work with. So that's something else that I think is notable, as opposed to sometimes these insurance companies can be very difficult to work with.
Well, Joey, I wanted to bring on somebody who I think, in my opinion, can add a lot of light to this. She has had much more experience than any one of us, and she's the reason why I am looking at health sharing personally. And I started doing this 2 years ago with our family. It's the reason why I told you about it. It's the reason why Will and Jonathan, I'm assuming, have started doing it. But is Michelle on the line?
I'm here.
Michelle, your family has experienced a lot of growth over the last few years. We'll say it that way. Would you mind sharing just some of your experience with health sharing? Because you guys have been doing it the longest, and if you don't mind, just tell a little bit kind of the background of where you guys got started, how long you've been doing it, and just a few experiences would be awesome.
Okay. Well, we started with Samaritan in 2012, December of 2012, And I was really nervous about it. My husband is a physician, and he kind of saw the writing on the wall with insurance and how that was going, and he felt strongly that we should come and try this option. I was really nervous about it because I didn't know what it was going to be like. I really like to know what I'm getting myself into, but I kind of leapt. And the month after we started, I found out I was pregnant with my son. So we got to just immediately work the first need just as soon as we started. And so I called Samaritan, and the man on the phone, when I was telling him about my need, he got me all set up, and then he said, okay, well, I would like to pray for you and the baby if you wouldn't mind. So right then we got to pray for my baby with the sharing with Samaritan, which no one at Blue Cross ever prayed with me before, so that was really special. And then it just made me realize that this is just a brother in Christ that's out there that's just helping us to do that. And so then, because it was a pregnancy, I got to do a lot of different bills. We get bills from the OB and the labs and the ultrasounds, and each different bill would come in. And so then I would call the hospital service number, the customer service number, and I would talk to them about a cash discount as a self-pay patient. And that was back in 2013, and nobody really understood that self-pay. So there wasn't a lot of that set up. But then when I had my daughter in 2015, pretty much everybody that I talked to had a standard discount. It was about 40% most of the time that they just automatically deducted from the bill when I called them. So then after I negotiated my discount, then I would call the Samaritan and tell them that I needed to get a need submission form, and I'd fill that out, and then they would share my need. And then the people at Samaritan, the different people that get my need, they send their checks directly to me. So that was really the best part, because I would get their cards and they would have encouragement, and I would know when I got the newsletter, you're supposed to pray for the person that you share with. So I'd know that Christians all over the United States were praying for our family and for our baby, and that was just really emotional. I've kept those cards. One of them had like children's artwork, and I kept those with their baby books, because it's just really special to know that when they were born, people all over the United States were praying for them. And it's just, that's my favorite part. It's just that personal encounter and the prayers. I had another son, I had another need. We've shared a couple of surgeries, and then I had a son who had a medical condition. It took us a little while to figure out what was going on with him. And so when I called, I had a lot of questions about how we were going to do this, because it had been a treatment over a period of time, and it was kind of confusing to me just logistically from the need sharing. And so when we finished talking about that, the representative from Samaritan said, okay, so you've told me all about his medical condition, but why don't you tell me how you're doing? And just, talk through my fears and my concerns about all of this. And then he prayed with me about that. And he just wanted to pray for my whole family and what this was doing to us. And it was just wonderful. We were Christians. We were believers. We just didn't know each other. And it really was, that's the best part, that we really get to bear one another's burdens and pray together and live in a community like that.
Wow. Russ?
That's unbelievable. I mean, those stories is why, Michelle, I'm doing this, and your experiences, and I thank you for sharing that, not only with our family, but sharing it with all the people that are listening to this right now. And if you don't mind, I may get you just to hold on just a few minutes, because I know we're getting some questions, and we may have time to ask one or two. But I know we've got the FAQs that we actually have a former Samaritan board member and a physician that's going to be with us next Thursday at 12:30. Is that right, Will? On the 17th? So for anybody who doesn't get a question answered either by Will or by one of us today, listen back in, because we're going to do this, because we know there's just so much to be asked about this, but we know how important this is.
Yeah, and
Okay.
let me go ahead and tell you real quick, Russ. We've actually had a couple of questions come in. One most recently from Josh asking about the never paying cash for a doctor's visit and how much does a typical office visit for a child cost. Joey, I know that you've probably experienced a little bit about that. Russ, I know you have too. I'll let you guys go into that if you'd like.
Absolutely, absolutely. Josh, thanks for the question. Um, Real quick before I get to that, I definitely want to cover that. I just want to kind of recap with us real quick. So number one, um, we're all in this together, right? We've all kind of had to figure out where to go from here and how to deal with this problem that we're all facing. The second thing would be the pool is the problem, right? Just to simplify it. So how do we get ourselves into a smaller pool? And the options we quickly talked about were you can use one of these companies like a US Health Advisors or an Aetna plan or one of those type deals that's not compliant with ACA, and you can kind of go that route, or you can go on this health sharing option and really try to totally pull yourself out of the current situation and create really more cash flow for your family. And then, so now we're going to quickly, I just want to share with you my personal experience because this is a very common question that Josh asked. Most people have no idea how much things actually cost when they go to the doctor because the bills are so hard to understand. You get these things in the mail later and you're like, I really don't remember doing any of this stuff. And so you're trying to navigate that. I can just tell you very simply, even when you call the doctor's office, sometimes they are a little unclear and they have to check back and have to get back to you. But real recently, I had tried to make this decision my own. I started looking at Blue Cross options, and they were $1,500 a month for my family of 6. And I just said, there's got to be, this is a huge problem here. So I went to the Samaritan option and started paying $4.95 a month, which really allowed me to start putting $1,000 a month aside every single month. Well, most people wonder, how in the world could I ever pay cash for all these expenses that I might have in medical expenses? If you've got $1,000 a month that's being put away on your behalf, there's very few things that you're not going to be able to pay for that are routine, and even those that are not. And that's one of the things that we're passionate about is helping people to figure out a great place to store that money that will allow you to have a good return and access to the money the whole time. And in the event that you do have a medical issue. So a real personal example, just in the last few weeks, I had to go to the doctor for a sinus infection. And going in, they have a cash payment option right up front. It was $120. This was at an urgent care, by the way, which they're going to charge a little bit more.
Joey, are you just asking the doctor? How does that typically work? Are you asking them about cash?
Yeah, when I check in, I said I'm a cash patient. So what's the bill for today? And here's something I also learned. If you call ahead and get an appointment, it's even cheaper. So the urgent care wasn't really allowing me to do that, but so $120, and I was in and out, had 2 shots, all was included in that same fee, and so I just paid cash for that. Um, my wife took my daughter recently to the doctor, and they had an appointment ahead of time. I think it was $75 to $90. But again, shots included, all the main things that you would expect in a regular doctor's visit. It's not like they treated you any differently, but I'm able to pay that because I have $1,000 a month sitting on the sidelines that I now have control of, and I can grow wealth with instead of sending it off to Blue Cross Blue Shield. So
you're saying, I mean, this, because what we talked about earlier is that our goal is trying to reach financial freedom.
right.
That meant that we had to get our income to be greater than our monthly expenses, right? And for us, we would like to create passive income, and that means that we don't have to work for it.
Right.
But if through this you're saving $1,000 a month, does that mean that you can take that money and you can save it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Well, we're running short of time, and Will, is there one more just like question that's burning there that you're getting a bunch of that maybe we can answer, and then And then we
Yeah,
can
sure. So Taylor has actually asked us about prescription
opportunities to listen.
medication. Can you guys mention anything about prescription medication, or shall we discuss a little bit about some of the options that people allow for prescription medications?
And Michelle, are you still on?
I am.
Would you want to answer that? Because I know you probably fill a lot more prescriptions than we have.
We have just on a case by case. We don't have prescriptions that we take on a regular basis, yearly, like diabetes medicine or things like that. But when we go, I use a website called GoodRx. It's just goodrx.com, and you input what the medicine is that's been prescribed, and it will tell you how much the medications are at different stores, locally. And then you just take that and you give it to the pharmacist, your phone. You can hand them your phone like a coupon. And I usually look up the medicine that the doctor's prescribing when I'm in the doctor's office, so that if it's something that's, $400 for a prescription, I can say, is this really what we need to do? Do we need to do this one? Can we get a generic? So that then I can have those conversations right then and reduce. A lot of times they don't even care. They don't know how much each individual medicine costs, so they don't care if you use the brand name or generic, so you can save money there too.
We've used GoodRx, and I have seen an example where when I called initially to have the prescription filled, it was going to be like $165. And my wife said, no, go to goodrx.com. And I went on there, and it was like literally $25. It was crazy, the differences. So it is having some of these insights of what's going on so that you can reduce the cost, because really the medical expenses out there don't have to be this high. And so really I want to encourage you to go onto that downloadable site and get the comparables that Will has put together. And we spent a good deal of time. We're going to keep updating that, but don't worry. If you don't get all your questions answered today, then let's make sure you get on the next call. That's going to be next Thursday at 12:30. We're going to have a physician on the call. He's going to be able to answer your questions, specifically how his office treats cash patients. And he's actually one of the doctors that actually accepts cash and tells you on his website what the fee is going to be. And then we're going to have someone that worked for on actually the board for one of the health sharing companies that we're talking to, and they're going to be able to ask maybe more specific related questions to how you do different things and what you could expect. So thank you so much for listening in. I know it's important for you to be financially free, and these sort of things are what we feel like are going to get you there.